Although we free range every animal but hogs on our survival homestead, I do have a chicken coop that my husband and his buddy, who spent a lot of time building it, refer to as the Fort Knox of chicken coops. If we have to be gone out of town, if we have a sick animal, if we have a new animal we're introducing into the flock, or a bunch of young chicks, it is still used for those purposes. I used to put the chickens and ducks up at night to keep them safe from predators and just free range during the day. That's what I consider an ideal situation. When the chickens are all confined, or the ducks are all confined, ours live together happily from day one. They tend to spread diseases far more quickly, which can cause a lot more death in your flocks, and you'll have less protein to eat, less meat, less eggs. But for some reason, and I still can't figure out what it is, they all literally flew the coop one day this winter, and the chickens live in the rafters in the top of the barn, and the ducks have now, who used to still stay in the coop, want to sleep in one of the horse stalls. I have no idea why. That's where they stay. They're still safe. I worried about losing more animals, letting the ducks just be in that stall. I've kind of retrofitted it now with some fencing. I assume because the other larger livestock is in there at night as well, that deters some smaller predators from coming in. During a disaster situation, I would take them back to being penned in the evening, or create larger pens and separate them out so I could still curtail the spread of disease, but eliminate the threat of loss from predators. Free ranging during the day allows them to get a lot of protein in their diets from bugs and insects, which keeps them out of your growing plots, so your vegetables that are protein sources and other food is much more likely to thrive. Keeps down on any cost of feeding them, and also the amount of feed you had to stockpile for a disaster. So it's a little give and take. We have a couple working plans for how we will deal with free ranging versus caging, but I do not want to get rid of our coop because we may be using it for all the flock with building on. We do have all the materials here to add on to it if we decide to keep the whole flock penned all the time or just partially. And like I said, I always quarantine a new animal before I bring it in the flock to make sure we're not spreading disease that could lose an animal. Right now we have some 13 Rhode Island Red chicks in the chicken run, which I use as a brooder. I prefer to always let the chicks live as naturally as possible, and any other animals that are born on the homestead. That way they can hone their natural instincts, and they are immediately and naturally hardened against the environment and other diseases they come into contact with. The bird flu cases, the outbreak of several years ago that caused massive callings, those weren't on homesteads or small farms. Those were all on factory farms where the animals live in pristine conditions, and the workers slip on what equals a hazmat suit to go inside to feed and care for them. So the moment they're introduced to a single germ, oh, there's our livestock guardian dog Sasha chasing my chicks. I apologize for that. But the moment the flocks are exposed to a little germ, their bodies just don't know how to react to it, and it consumes them and kills them. Now, there is typical chicken wire on the run. The chicken wire is great for keeping chickens in, ducks in, turkeys, whatever it is that you're raising, but it's not good for keeping predators out. So we have hardware cloth, which I didn't even know what that was called until I started researching it. It's basically the wire that you use for rabbit hutches. We have that lining the bottom, and not just the exterior bottom. We also trenched a foot wide and a foot down and lined it with hardware cloth to deter burrowing predators. We have a solid wood door. On the door you see this little bungee stretchy cord that holds the piece of hardware cloth I put to cover any gape in the door. Wood posts when we have a lot of rain and water like we did this winter. A little bit of flooding even way up here on the hillside because it drains down from up top. The posts can bend and move with time. Sometimes the horses will brush against them to scratch. So the hardware cloth will prevent any gape in here that a mink could get through. And you can see what a small gauge that is. So a mink cannot get through that. They can get through the chicken wire. They can't get through this. The latch in the door is a two-step latch to deter raccoons. You have to take it up. And it's hard to do one-handed, folks. I apologize. And out. A raccoon, a lot of them can work a one-step latch, like a little one that flips over, goes through a hoop. They can fling that up and claw a little bit at your door and get themselves a free meal. If you have a chicken run and you have animals in it that stay in it overnight during the summer months, they can stay cool. It'd be a great place for a trap for a coon, either to kill the predator that's eating your livestock or to get rid of it, or also to eat it to give you another protein source. Our rabbit hutches also have hardware cloth, but it's a thicker gauge. It's very strong. You don't want it to be too as flimsy as that smaller gauge because it will bow underneath and can wear on the rabbit's feet and harm them over time where it bows and gapes. They won't be able to have a steady solid surface to stand on. We have just thick wood here, shingles that were left over from another housing project. They have some extra shade and waterproofing there to keep them cool. And the rabbits go in there at night. You can train them just like you can chickens or ducks to put them up. We have a little ramp, we put it up, and they go inside. This one is not in use at the moment. And then they can roam about during the day and get put up. Some people who free range rabbits, kind of free range, they have their pens inside of a fence, and the rabbits can come and go, but only in that fenced area. Others free range and let them run out and about just like you would chickens. That definitely hardens them against the environment, makes them more durable and able to ward off changes in weather, natural pathogens. Also makes them a lot cheaper to feed, but you do also risk losing them more. So there's a give and take in any way that you do it. These are the flaps on the Fort Knox chicken coops. They're hinged and they open up so you can just reach in and get your eggs for your protein very easily. This bar is far too heavy for a coon or anything else to lift. I have had mink around here before, so I dangle a wire here and make a little slip knot, and we use it for a trap to catch the mink as they come through. This board holds those firmly in place more than a tiny latch. And as you can see, there's hardware cloth around the corners in case this old particle board separates. It goes all the way around, way up further than what most predators are going to be able to reach and touch without climbing, and to also protect the wood from giving way or something digging a hole in it or climbing. We have some old siding that goes around it, some old pieces of metal that were off of a pole barn garage, and this goes all the way around. And up top it is vented. We have that covered on the top with some plastic liner. I don't know what it was from, if it was a pond, if it was something to do with insulation, I have no clue. Something out of the pole barn garage where all the treasures are. So that gives some extra protection from anything being able to climb down into the vents and get inside. Birds will do that. They'll land on top. Coons will climb. They'll climb up in a tree branch and dangle over and try to climb down into the vents of your chicken coop. So we don't have any trees where that would be possible around the coop for that reason.